What is something that you consider core to the Souls formula that you would not want to see changed in Elden Ring? Like, not even iterated on or really tweaked in any way, just keep it the same. Why, hello there. It is 177 days until Elden Ring comes out on January 21st, 2022, and this is the Elden Wait. For today's episode, I wanted to bring up what I think is a pretty subjective topic, but it's something that I've talked about with various people on Discord and elsewhere on the internet lately, and it's something I wanted to throw out to the community just to see the different answers. So, what is something that you consider core to the Souls formula that you would not want to see changed in Elden Ring? Like, not even iterated on or really tweaked in any way, just keep it the same. My sort of personal answer, and it's sort of a cop-out, is the area, location, sound, title card thing. I think that is a touch that I really like about all of From Software's titles that I've played, and I just would like that to stay the same. I would like that to be in and not really change. And it's a little bit of a cop-out, but the truth is that I don't really feel like there is anything super core to the Souls formula that, doesn't have some level of, play that can be brought about with Elden Ring. I think Elden Ring is a great opportunity to reevaluate how From approach their games, and if something does not lend itself to the open world situation, that's an articulation point for sort of changing up their formula. Because I feel like a lot of people really want Elden Ring to be a bit different from Dark Souls. I'm not quite there. I think the core is going to be very Soulsy in nature, and that is fine, but there is a lot of stuff that I'm just excited to see them play with when they're not constrained by, the last decade of games they made. It's something to work off of, but it doesn't mean that's the end point either. I would be tempted to say something like, I wouldn't want them to mess with their storytelling formula too much, or that sense of exploration and connecting the dots to understand the lore. But really, there is still room within that. I don't think they're going to go like full exposition with cutscenes. Like that's not really the spirit of the question. I think there's still space to tweak, even like item descriptions with stuff and how they present the story. I think there's plenty of room to move within there that Elden Ring can build off of previous titles and also explore new things. We already know that Miyazaki mentioned how they're, it's going to be a little bit more character focused than the Souls games were, because you have these lords and you're a tarnished and there's other tarnished. So there's going to be a lot of people with strong opinions, and that's going to be important to the narrative of the story. There's mechanics things like you have stamina and the blood stain mechanic, and just the basic way the controls, with light attack, heavy attack. And while I wouldn't want any of those things to really change drastically unless they have a really solid idea that they're going to pursue, I think there is room to still play with some of those elements. Probably the controls least of all. I couldn't imagine, not, hitting my R1, R2, just some of the basic controls like that. I guess I would want to stay relatively the same, but with everything else, I think it's hard to imagine how much like this. People have said like the Souls games are open, but the fact is you just have options of where you travel to. The actual like space you can move around in is relatively linear, but I think for an open world game, there's tons of things that affect the Souls formula to its core. Like, for instance, I was talking on my Discord, link in the description, that, the bloodstain mechanic, and they didn't want the bloodstain mechanic to change at all. And, I think the bloodstain mechanic works, with dropping your souls, you go and pick them up, but maybe in an open world, it doesn't make as much sense. I'm not really sure, but that is something where I'm open to a change, even if it, it's not something that I'm thinking can't be changed or possibly improved upon, or just makes more sense for Elden Ring. So my sort of joke answer, but also kind of serious, is the location names and the sort of the sound, the title card that pops up. It's a very small and specific thing, which is why I think it probably works, but it's also a bit of a cop out. But then I guess the basic control scheme, at least the light attack, heavy attack, shield, like I wouldn't really want that core feel to change. The values within it, again, very specific. And I think maybe that's a lot of things that maybe people specifically would want to stay the same. But I'm curious, leave me a comment. Are there any systems or details about how From Software and Souls games go together that you wouldn't want to see touched at all? It just works. You don't want them to play with it. You don't think it'll lead to something better, and you just want it to stay the same. Let me know in the comments. Hey, post recording, Sean here, just jumping in at the end before the video ends. I just wanted to give a shout out to another creator and then a small programming note before I wrap up the video. I wanted to give a shout out to, I think it's Bvoof, and I will link this in my description, but they made a video that has nothing to do with what I just talked about, but I think it's a pretty cool Elden Ring video, and I want to shout out other creators because I love, I'm a big nerd about this stuff. I love seeing other people's thoughts. For instance, Vadi just did his story lore thing, and I think it's pretty good. I'm working on my own. Hopefully it'll be even better. Probably not. My voice isn't nearly as cool. But anyways, back to Bvoof. Cross-referencing to create an accurate map of Elden Ring. It's in the description, but it's a cool video where he did something that I thought about doing, but honestly just didn't want to commit the time, so I'm happy to see that someone did it. But he spent some time triangulating and figuring out spatial relationships in the gameplay trailer, and I think a lot of it is pretty solid, and I think it's a pretty good analysis. So if you're interested in seeing how someone has sort of landed on where the various shots in the gameplay trailer came from and how they relate to each other, it's worth checking out. Of course, we don't know the whole map at this point, so there is plenty that is still mysterious, and I think he does a good job accounting for that, and also just, admitting that it's speculation on one hand, but it's interesting, and maybe that is just because I, in my day job, I do a lot of stuff with spatial relationships, but it is cool to see how things relate to each other and to get an idea of how From Software is building out this world, the logic to it, and, how that plays into potential progression, and just because it's fun to know where things are. So that is there. Check that out in the description. I think I linked it up top at some point too, most likely. And the last programming note is I probably will have nothing going up on Friday this week, and that's because I want to just get into some scripting and editing and get my story and lore based off of the gameplay trailer, recent tweets, Bandai Namco's website, get that together and release a really solid video. So I just want to spend some production time and not have some other stuff get in the way. So just to let you know there, but I will be streaming Bloodborne tomorrow still. So if you're interested in that, 8:30 p.m. EST, I will be there for Bloodborne. But okay, I will let you go now. Check out those videos that I mentioned, and I'll see you for the next Elden Wait.